Biff, why are the Olympic stadiums in Tokyo just so hot?
We're doing this again, aren't we?
Because there's no fans. There's no fans. You know what? If there was an Olympic,
at least it's a new joke.
If there was an Olympic competition for laziness, I would really try to come in fourth. That way I didn't have to walk up to the podium.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. This is Jacques.
This is Biff.
And welcome to Carnival Personnel. Biff, how are you, my friend?
I am actually doing pretty well. Psyched to for another Friday night combination of you for however long we're going to chat and Friday night hockey.
You got hockey tomorrow morning?
I do not.
Oh,
I'm
good.
taking this week off. I actually had one Wednesday night, and that's it.
Good for you. We just recorded arguably the longest, probably the longest, unarguably the longest sideshow we've done, but very arguably the best sideshow we did, with a really detailed, funny, hilarious conversation with our friend Ronak about reality show TV and development.
Yep. And, I managed to keep, Jacques from just gambling on forever and ever. So,
yep. No, it was, she probably did 85% of the talking, which
was the right move.
Exactly. So, sometimes we start the show on a sour note when a legend passes or an artist of note that we like. But this week, it is the 99th birthday for one Norman Lear.
Yeah.
And dude, I've heard him on a few different shows over like the last week. I follow a lot of, people of his ilk on Twitter, and it's unfathomable that the guy is still that funny and that sharp. And honestly, it's like talking to a 40-year-old, comedy writer,
I mean, certainly, we're talking about and it is amazing, a lot of guys from that era. And obviously we're talking about the late Carl Reiner. And only recently late, Carl Reiner, Mel Brooks, Dick Van Dyke, all those guys, just fantastic minds. And it's just amazing. I guess it's more of also a credit of how much those guys from that generation used to do. I mean, they just used to do so much within the industry, and so those guys are getting rarer and rarer, right? So
and it's amazing to hear his journey. And with older people, sometimes myself, it's like you can recall something from 40 years ago like it was yesterday, but you can't remember what happened this morning. He is sharp as a tack all the way across.
Yep.
And like our hero, Monsieur Paul Legua, I think a lot of it has to do with they never stopped. They never let themselves be old. He never stopped writing. He never stopped producing. He never stopped loving to work in a comedy world. And like I said, the fact that he's 99 and he still has projects that he's getting up every day and working on is inspiring. So he's great. Are you a Jeopardy guy? Have you been?
Yeah, I used to watch it when, it's one of those things where I watch it less and less, largely because we cut the cord. So watching network shows or the local shows is actually more of a chore. So, but I get it. I enjoy it when I watch it, but yeah.
So, and it's probably my Twitter algorithm that for a good while, ever since the passing of, the great Alex Trebek, people have been calling out for LeVar Burton, to do it. And I didn't know if there was why the groundswelling was what it was, but it was. And after, months and months of guest hosts and stuff like that from all over the board, he has a shot this week. And I think he's doing a fantastic job. I think he's doing a great job. I put on Twitter that I do believe if he does get the full-time gig, that he should, and I'm not saying it has to be the full uniform, but once a week he should wear the visor of Geordie LaForge, when he's hosting. Just once a week.
No, he should not.
No, I'm not saying he has to have the whole uniform.
No,
but I think once a week.
No.
What I do like.
You know what? Once a year on Halloween, he should do it.
Now, I don't know if all the other hosts have been doing this, but Burton has at the end of every show, or he pointed out in his first introducing of himself and how he's very lucky to be hosting, blah, blah, blah. The winning totals of the 3 contestants every night is matched. It goes to his Reading Rainbow Foundation.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And a guy yesterday, and it was awesome. Dude, I don't care if it's basketball, hockey, fucking table tennis. Watching the best at what they do is a real privilege. And the guy who is on a 7-day run right now, dude, he has, it's been over, like mathematically over before the second round most nights. And he went on a 20 question run, something like a 20 question run yesterday. And so when it came time for Final Jeopardy, well, he had something like 43,000, and if the other contestant doubled what she had, the most she could get was 88,000. So my management, my wife,
8,800 maybe
8,800. She said, "Oh my God, the way he's going, I bet he's gonna bet $30,000." And he did, and he got the question right. And 73,000. And so at the end, when LeVar was saying what the totals are, you could see how giddy he was, how much money was going to that foundation. And everything I've ever heard about the guy from other celebrities, people in the industry, he's just beloved. And it's funny because I know there's an outcry for Ken Jennings to take over the full-time role, but I noticed on the credits last night, he's a consulting producer on the show. So maybe he's happy being behind it or whatever, but it's great because, like I said, for a very long time, my Twitter algorithm keeps having people, I keep getting tweets for the last, while saying, he's got to be the host. He's got to be the host. And there's been some great hosts, but if they call me for my vote, I'm going LeVar Burton, but I am going to ask him to wear the Geordie LaForge thing. You don't have TV, but I reached out.
TV.
No, I'm sorry. You cut the cord, but talking about TV, a really good friend of mine, he has his hobby is pirating. I'm just going to say it. If you ask him what he's up to, his hobby is pirating, and he just likes to find things and collect things and put them on. And I don't agree or disagree. Like when Napster was a thing, I used Napster to find live recordings or things I just couldn't find. Napster predated like being able to go to eBay and buy obscure albums or stuff like that. And so, but I will tell you, the other day, you cannot buy Biff. You cannot buy it on Amazon Prime. You cannot buy it on Apple TV. You cannot find it anywhere. None of the 19 streaming services we have the movie Breakin'. They have Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo. You can that's I think on Netflix, and you can buy it on Apple TV, or you can buy it on Amazon. But you cannot buy Breakin' anywhere. And my wife was telling a friend about it. I don't know how it came up on conversation. She goes, "Oh, you like 80s dance movies. This is what started all. You have to see this one." And I texted my buddy. I'm like, "By any chance, do you have Breakin'?" He goes, "Oh, do you want me to put it on DVD or flash drive?" I'm like, "Dude, whichever is easier for you, I'll swing over tomorrow and get it." And then he called, like right away, he texts right back. I mean, this is a really great friend of Joe's and mine. And about a half hour, he calls back, goes, "Wait, you don't have my Plex account?" And I'm like, if I knew what it was, maybe I do. So it goes, "Go to your smart TV." And it took him 20 minutes to walk me through getting onto his Plex account. I grew up with this kid. I moved next door to him in 1973. We saw Star Wars together. His dad took us to Smoking Bandit. I mean, we're closer as brothers than me and my own brother, and we're exactly the same, but different. Like, he's a Marvel guy who loves DC. I'm a DC guy who loves Marvel. It's like one of those things. So, but he and I would run home from school, and there was a thing called Force 5 every day at 2:30. And we got out of school at 2:20, and the school was a mile away. And you've not seen, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds run that fast, not on fire. And we would miss like the opening credits. but every day was a different show. It was the same show on Monday, Tuesday, and two of the
Right.
shows that I love were Star Blazers
Yep.
and the show called Grandizer.
Right.
And of course, like I see his animated file, and I've been spending the week just watching this, and I got a couple questions for you. Why did all this Japanese animation in the early 70s, the characters look like me and not you?
Yeah, so there is this thing of, I think, making people look, I don't know what the for lack of a better term, exotic on the animation side. So that was a kind of a standard thing. And obviously, what's funny is that if you look at that era depiction of an Asian in an animated context in the West versus in the actual Asia, you'll see, yeah, that's the world apart in terms of how each group perceived Asians, whether so it's really almost like the difference between the real you and the Instagram you, right? I mean, there's a little bit of that also.
But it's funny. So the show Grandizer comes out in 1974, but it doesn't get here to like the late 70s, or maybe it's 79, 80. It hits the UHF channels here.
I mean, there's a whole history of those kind of things, right? Like, there's like the Gigantor.
Yep.
Whatever, Kimba the White Lion, all those, right? So.
And Grandizer, it's set in nondescript USA. Like it's on a farm in Oklahoma, Nebraska, like farmers' daughters, like characters, like all this stuff. But it's just so funny. It's all round-eyed whiteys, but then a couple of the tech people look like you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, are they? But the funny thing is, it's so, and I remember this as a kid. Back then, they didn't do different title cards. They would just put the English in bigger, different color, like Chiron, over the Japanese. And even on the screens, it's like, oh, he's looking at the screen, and they never went over. It's like the Japanese characters would be on the screens in the background, like the computer screens and stuff like that, which I thought was fun. But honestly, and Star Blazers, I take it you would at least know Star Blazers.
Actually, I never watched the show because I read the original manga but never watched the show.
Okay, but I guess they made a live action movie that only came out in Japan a few years ago for Star Blazers. They did like a reboot.
Oh yeah, I remember there was a
Starship Yamato, I think it's called.
Yamato.
Yeah. So I will be watching that this week. So honestly, it's been a big week on my friend Plex account but like I said, he has Black Widow up there. And I would not have been able to watch Black Widow on his Plex account if I didn't pay to have seen it in the theater. You know what I mean? I would have felt guilty about that.
Yeah.
Like I want to, because look, I know how many those movies employ. It's like, oh sure, Marvel, Disney, they don't need any more money. But I did. I wanted to. We definitely wanted to support a female-driven action movie, female director, all that stuff, and I'm glad I did. That said, now that I paid my $65, $70 to take the family to see it in the theater with the popcorn and all that stuff, I don't feel guilty watching it twice this week, on that. And it's great. But yeah, that was it. Other news this week that I thought was about time, and it's interesting. The Cleveland Guardians.
Yeah. I mean, so do you know about why it's the Guardians? Have you actually...
Dude, it's one of my favorite favorite rabbit holes I went down this week. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I saw those statues from like 19. Right.
No, they're still around. I mean,
no. But from 19, they're still there, but they were carved. And I saw this whole thing about how they were carved, who designed them.
Yep. Yeah, but I think there was like some people were expecting. I think there was a historic Cleveland team called the Spiders. So I think there was a kind of a contingency that was, hoping for Spiders because it's less goofy than Guardians. But whatever. Yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah, the bridge that leads to the newer stadium is carved with those, almost 100-year-old, Guardian statues now. I think it's perfect.
It's a cool drive. I made that drive a few times. Yeah, absolutely.
but whatever name you went with, there was going to be an outcry. It's like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
we've had this racist name for 100 years, and now it's an issue. It was an issue 100 years ago. But the way I look at it, the owners of the Cleveland, Guardians have to be happy because we know the whole bullshit between the alternative third jerseys that the NHL came up with a few years ago. It's like, well, everybody at this King game has a home or away jersey, and we need these assholes to buy another $100 jersey. What can we possibly do? So, yeah, I mean, the old team logo will sell well on eBay for the next 50 years, 100 years, but in the meantime, they're gonna sell a crap load of Guardian stuff. Do you think it's gonna spill over? I mean, when does the Atlanta baseball team change the name?
I mean, we'll find out, right? I mean, so the Washington football team is in the midst of that right now. Now, obviously, that was the worst of the names, along with
worst,
right? But I think that regionally speaking, I guess Ohio and Georgia, maybe Georgia's going to be a little bit slower to really push on it because I don't really see the internal pressure there as much as I did, with Cleveland. So we'll see.
I applaud it. It just
absolutely.
It's been a long time coming, but it's happened
years ago. Yep.
But it's happened now, and I'm just happy it is. Speaking of rabbit holes, our good friend Joe, he just likes to throw wrenches into my productive days. And
your productive days, right?
The other day,
I
get an email, and he usually texts me. I get an email, dude. It's this link. In 1979, they broke a record for 29 new shows, and there was only 3 networks at the time.
Yeah.
29 new primetime shows, and somebody, some genius found them all and strung together the opening credits. And back then, some opening credits were 2 minutes long. I mean, they were these, and they would hire big name artists and big name songwriters. Dude, the rabbit hole I fell down of, oh man, I vaguely remember that show. Oh wait, that guy, I know him from this and this. And the Googling I would do, and the IMDBing of certain names, and just like,
wow.
Oh wait,
so I just Googled 1979 TV shows or whatever, and there's an IMDb list of 1979 TV show debuts. So
crazy, right?
According to this, there's 33 titles.
Oh, maybe 33, and there's like 2 shows, one of them directly a spin-off of Animal House, and one of them a direct rip-off of Animal House. They had 2 primetime sitcoms about fraternities and sororities. Neither one lasted, I mean, but I did. It's like oh man, this poor girl thought she was, gonna be, huge. She's second lead in this, this drama, and then you go and look at her ID, and it's the only thing she had. Or in some cases, I found out, like, John Travolta's sister, who I said to Joe's like, oh, I'm only going to remember her from this show now. And he's like, oh, well, don't you remember that she was Fonzie's aunt and Chachi's mom on Happy Days and Johnny Love Chachi? I'm like, I forgot that I knew that. So it is. So, and I do. Sometimes I got to put a parent block on YouTube for myself during work hours because it just takes you from one thing to the next. But
wait, so have you done the old gray whistle test YouTube search?
Dude, here's my old gray whistle test story. I got to quote unquote produce a box set for the police in 2004. And
I remember that. Yeah.
Stuart Copeland actually brought in the master, which I don't know if this means much to you, but it was a 3/4 inch PAL tape.
Nice.
Dude, it was, and we probably spent 10% of the budget, like salvaging this thing, like color correcting. And it was so great, dude. It's if anybody doesn't know what the old gray whistle test is, it's cable access. It's the equivalent of, it was prime time. It was a huge show on, it was Top of the Pops and Old Grey Whistle Test, but the production value is what you get at a local cable access station with a local band coming. And it is fucking magic. And I will tell you this. Here's my Stuart Copeland story. The guy who worked at Universal who gave me the gig introduced me, goes, "Oh, Jacques a drummer too." Dude, right? Like, and I'm like, no. I count to 4 fast or slow, depending on which of our songs we're playing. But
it's like somebody introduces me to, Patrick Roy, say, "Oh, hey, Biff's a goalie too." So
yeah, right. Thank you.
Don't.
And you have no idea how much you just insulted, Stuart Copeland.
Yeah,
like, you should have slapped him in the face.
It's the same thing.
So I said to him, "It was amazing getting to see you play on a stripped down kit." And he laughed. He goes, "Dude, that wasn't a stripped down kit. That was the kit I used." And he goes, "But as we started to tour and get bigger, like they just kept sending me more drums and more toys and more cymbals and sending me a guy to set it up and break it down." He goes, "But if you look at a live thing, because and part of this documentary that he was working on, there's an overhead camera of him on every concert." He goes, "Dude, I hit the same 3 drums 98% of the time." He goes, "But just to justify that guy's job, so he felt like it was worth setting up, I made sure I hit each cymbal and each drum at least once every show." He goes, "But that was my kit. That's all I played on." Because, but by the time I jumped on the Police, I'm like 12 years old in junior high and they're out, but I never saw him playing on this stripped down kit. Sting had just the day before, he was working on the movie Dune. He was an actor in Dune. And whatever they sprayed on his face for makeup inflamed his whole face. He had these Elton John ski goggles / glasses on. But so what are some of your favorite whistle tests?
Oh my God, there's so many, but I would say the one that I really love is actually obscure, but there's a guy named Gary Moore who was a guitarist for Thin Lizzy. But he was a solo act, but he did this one where the backup band in my world is like freaking a who's who, where he basically had a combination of there's a guy named Cozy Powell, who's a drummer who you may not have heard of, even though you're a drummer, but within the heavy metal world, he was a big name. And then he had the guys from Thin Lizzy as the backup band kind of a thing. But that lineup was, fantastic. So yeah, that was good. So there was some great old Judas Priest back when Rob Halford had super long hair, stuff like that. Yeah, there's but I've gone into that rabbit hole. Dude, the old Grey Whistle Test just down the road. I mean, some great Queen in there,
when you see the production value, it's like looking at Galifianakis has that show Between Two Ferns. It's like the set from Between Two Ferns, but you are looking at these rock legends, legends.
But what's great about it though is also that it was actually live performance, right? And so that's what makes it so amazing. I mean, and unlike the Top of the Pops, which is all lip synced, right? So but there's just some just within my genre, there's like old UFO, old Scorpions, bunch of stuff. So if you're like a rock fan and you Google Old Grey Whistle Test on YouTube and you can't find something you like, there's definitely something wrong with you.
Right. No, I mean, I did not see the Queen one. Don't tell me what they played, but I will definitely be going back, this week and doing it. So it's funny because this week I actually wrote down some things I wanted to talk about. And just before we come on the air, it turns out that the Justice Department, and I don't want to get too excited or giddy, but the Justice Department just told Treasury, "Hey, clowns, no more hiding the taxes. You have to turn Donnie Two Scoops taxes over to Congress." So look, I've learned not to get excited about that stuff until something really happens, but I got a good feeling about it, Biff. I got a good feeling that some of the shenanigans might be coming to an end. But then again,
we'll
I'm not going to get.
I would say, is something going to happen that will prevent him from running again in 2024? So I don't know if,
Yeah, I'm not sure if I don't want him to run because, he's just like the lead balloon that he's, been. I'm not going down that rabbit hole, but he's defined the word loser at every turn. But I will say I'm disappointed in the media because I'm just finding out it's been going on for like 4 months. But have you heard about this coal miners strike that they ended up having thousands of people show up from all over the country in New York and protesting, zero attention on any of the outlets.
That's a kind of it's a fascinating thing. So part of it is that it's okay. So if you put it into context, who's protesting? Coal miners, as he said, right?
Yeah.
So that means it's in the coal industry, right? So and it's a coal miners It's a coal miners union, right? So we're dealing with coal, which is something that the liberal media probably doesn't like. And then you're dealing with unions, which the conservative media doesn't like. So who wants to cover it?
Well, you would figure that some of the, and again, yes,
I'm just so that was my question.
You and I are on the same page that we should have been on wind and power, wind and solar decades ago, and we're not fans of coal, but it is here for the time being. But the whole fact that no Democrat is standing up with these, because the death of the union, the unions since the Reagan came in the 80s, is really what eroded the backbone of the middle class. So you'd figure somebody, an AOC or Warren or somebody who's really or Bernie, who's so pro-union. It's like, yeah, I don't like coal, and wouldn't it be great if we can transition these workers into solar or wind? But they are getting screwed around. They are workers. They are a strong union. They are middle class. Let's get out there. But yeah, no, that's interesting. You're right. Like, it's not sexy for the liberal media, and it's, kryptonite for the for the other assholes.
Bottom line though, what I will say is that, as much as I don't like the industry itself, my heart hurts for those people, because we're dealing with people, and some of them are kind of willing partners, maybe, whatever you want to say. They know that they're going to get crappy health at the end of their lives, right? And they're getting paid garbage wages and no benefits. And those are the people who really, really need the health care and the long-term, support.
On one hand, you have every Democrat saying I'm for unions and all that stuff, and they're silent. And then on the other side, the last administration, the guy who's head of the EPA is a coal magnate, and they're like, these coal workers are the salt of the earth, and these are the backbone. And no Republican is standing up saying, yeah, we support, these are the salt of the earth people that we want to vote for us because we perpetuate, their existence. Anyways, did you check in at all for the January 6th hearings that happened the other day?
I did. The only part that I really watched was the testimonials from the police officers, and nothing beyond that. So that's all I've watched. And, obviously, certainly I can't remember the officer's name, but him describing the whole event and telling us that in his whatever 20 odd years as a policeman, it was the first time that he was called the N-word while he was in uniform. I'm thinking, that was a kind of a mind-blowing statement in my book.
I am glad that he said that word several times, and that the stations that I saw it on didn't edit it out.
Yeah,
because to see that strong, he's a giant, he's a big guy, and to see him emotionally and say like that, it's like, you know what, doesn't the NHL have that new thing, like get uncomfortable? It's like,
no, that's not the NHL. That's the Black Girl Hockey Club, but some NHL clubs teams have signed on. But I'd like to discuss that later. But
we'll get to that. But get uncomfortable, and that's when. But on a couple of stations that I toggled between or saw coverage of, they were being, here's the cop story who was getting crushed in the door, and showing the footage of him getting crushed in the door. So look, I think we got a long way to go. I'm glad that Pelosi had said, okay, we negotiated with you in good faith for a month, and we agreed to all your terms to put this commission together. And then the day before, you wouldn't do it. And then we put this commission together, and you purposely put saboteurs on it that I threw off. And just before the commission started, just before the hearing started, their leader said any Republican who stays on this committee is going to lose all their chair seats. So 3 of the 5 Republicans got up and left. And so, you know what? We don't need them to get to the bottom of it. And at the same time, it's like, okay, well, you would have known the subpoenas are coming, Jim Jordan, because you would have people on the inside giving you the heads up to get out of Dodge. But anyways, but speaking of those hearings, doing a little research, and I saw this clip before, and it's gone around Twitter. Does the woman's name, June Elliott, ring a bell with you?
It does not.
Do you remember? And this was back in the 60s, and this woman did it on her own.
I was like 5 years old.
But you would have seen.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I was -1, but it was right. It was like the day after MLK was shot. Okay. And she came into her classroom of all white students, and she wanted to give them an idea of what it's like being Black in America. And she famously told, divide up the classroom between blue-eyed kids and dark-eyed kids, and told.
I heard that story. Yeah. So go ahead. Yeah.
So I was watching this clip the other day, on Twitter, so this became a big documentary when she had done that, and she's given this speech, and I'm trying to look up when it was, and she became a real, anti-racist hero, from way back, from like the 60s, and she is lecturing a college, and I bring this up because of the whole critical race, theory, and the big push not to learn things. And the big push to bury your head in the sand and truly whitewash history. And one girl at the lecture stormed out. It was a big lecture hall thing. And she was saying, it's like, yeah, you know what? She doesn't realize how lucky she is. She doesn't like what she's hearing and can get up and leave. Black people don't have the option of not being Black. And I would like a show of hands from anybody in this room if you're okay with how Blacks are treated in this country. And then some people put their hand up because, okay, my next question, would you want to be Black in this country? Nobody's hand goes up. You know what I mean? So you're okay with the treatment of how we're treating this minority group. But anyways, with the whole, I didn't want to go too far into this, but I was thinking that today. It was like the whole critical race thing. I was talking to my friend in Texas who is very upset because in his state, his governor he's keeping one of his kids home from school this coming school year. One of his kids is going to a private school. The other kid, who was going to a very good public school in Austin, the governor has mandated you can't have masks in school. No school system can mandate masks. And it's like you just telling kids they can't wear masks is what they're doing. And it's like, so on one hand, we're truly trying to keep the Delta variant going, and on the other hand, we're truly trying to, again, whitewash history. And this whole, well, we don't want white kids to feel bad if they know that we did bad. I've talked to you. I remember talking to you about comments that my, Korean mom-in-law made that were wrong comments, and she was corrected by my wife. But because she has this great dislike for the way the Japanese people had treated her as a child, and you're like, oh yeah, we were awful, And Germany,
that's a different conversation. Plus, the Japanese are still kind of awful when it comes to the whole time in Korea and everything else. So that's a different story.
But in Japan, as a child, do they hide the atrocities of war? Because like I
100%.
Oh, they do. Okay, because
oh my God, no. That's what I was gonna get to. I don't want to expand on it because that's not the point. But right now, the Japanese government complain about these. There are these symbolic statues of these young girls on benches that symbolize the comfort women, and they have been put up in various places as pieces of artwork and whatever else. And the Japanese government goes bananas. And I think there was one even in Glendale, I want to say, for a little while. And the Japanese government is, going to conniptions over it. Yeah, the Japanese government is in denial over that role, and they've also basically said that we've done our atonement, we did what we needed to do. And so that's where I agree with Ellen's mom-in-law from the standpoint of, what, they still haven't done. It's the same thing as a lot of things in this country where the atrocities are not acknowledged.
Well, I mean, it's funny. I thought I loved history. It was one of my favorite. It was one of the few subjects I did okay in school, and then I went to college. It wasn't until I think I might have been out of college. I got a college degree, not in history, but I went to college, had to take some history courses. I didn't know about Japanese internment camps, and I was a World War II buff. Like when I started a company in 2000.
But in your defense, that wasn't a war going on in the internment camp. So see, it's not important.
No, right?
It wasn't a war.
Same thing. It's like I
didn't
know about redlining, and I didn't know about segregated army, and I didn't know about the testing on the Tahiti's airmen. And I will tell you, I am ashamed that somebody who thought he liked history and watched every documentary going up on PBS, that I find out about the Tulsa massacre by watching The Watchmen 2 years ago. And then I looked it up. I remember watching that, and I'm like, holy shit, this happened.
Yeah.
And wait a minute, it wasn't the first time it happened.
Yeah.
And what happened, I think it was in Wilmington, North Carolina, the same thing happened where I'm not going into that, but it was like, dude, and now we're going out of our way to make it harder to learn. But it was
Bill Barr that said the winners write history, right?
Yeah, but we didn't win. But you know what? It's like I'm just hoping that But now that I have brought up COVID, how it kind of hit home for you and I and our circle of friends this week.
Yeah. Well, so I don't want to. Obviously, we don't want to be naming at this point, but So I guess the short thing is that we are seeing firsthand what's been reported on the news, which is that you can be fully vaccinated and still contract the virus. And you look at some of the statistics coming out. I think, in fact, there was something that was that pertained to some area in Massachusetts where there was a report, CDC report, where like 74% of the people who tested positive were vaccinated people and stuff like that, right?
So, out in Provincetown.
Yeah. So, and so those numbers, I want to see the kind of the expanded numbers in terms of, so what's the percentage of people who were vaccinated in, just the regular percentages. And then, so what does that mean and everything else? Now, having said that, there's other numbers that let us know that the vaccinations, work. But once again, what it does, when it works, it's not the same as saying that it will keep you from getting the virus, period, right? That there's a certain context to what the vaccination is going to do. And they've been saying it from the start. So the stuff that I cared about from the start is the high percentage of people who will avoid hospitalization by taking the vaccine, right? That is the efficacy that I really cared about. Everything else is like, what? If I take the vaccination, there's a really good chance I won't die even if I get the virus. And that's because, not dying is a pretty important thing, at least at this point in my life. So
I was hoping to be talking on this podcast about, you might have, my oldest kid who's 13 was this past Wednesday was supposed to fly out for his first trip, and he was going to see you, he was going to see Taylor, and he was going to see, stay with our great friend Renetsky. And we just told him, it's like, hey, our friend who is his whole family is just fucking brilliant, and they took it incredibly serious. But when it hit that, it's like, and I tell him, it's like, dude, if you get it, and he got it right away because he has autoimmune things, and he wasn't pushing back. But I'm like, I don't know if you have to stay there a month, 2 months. I mean, realistically, what would have to happen is I'd have to fly out and drive him home, or drive out and get him home. If he's going to be there for a couple months, even if he has a mild case, or if he gets it, and he's vaccinated. So yeah, it kind of, I was hoping, 3 months after he got his vaccinations that it wouldn't be hitting home. But you know what? Thanks to the assholes out there, the COVIDiots out there who are really working to keep this thing going. And it starts at the top and goes all the way fucking down.
It is kind of fascinating though, from the standpoint of we're seeing like except for Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham, I think all the other Fox panelists are starting to push for people to be vaccinated, right? There was a period where, oh my God, all these guys, Hannity is telling you to get vaccinated. It's like, what?
Just in the past week. It's only changed in the
right,
past
that's
week.
what I mean, right? So
because it was last week. There was two guys on the Fox and Friends set who almost got into it, because one guy's like, you got to go get vaccinated. The other guy's like, well, I'm all for telling people they should, but it's not our place. It's like, and then he made one of the asshole stupid comments of the year, which is saying a lot. But he's like, if you told me you were going cliff diving this week, and I said, well, that doesn't sound safe, but it's not my place to tell you not. It's not the government. The government's job isn't to keep you safe. And right away, I thought, okay, great. I'm with you. I agree. So let's get rid of the military, because the military's whole thing is to keep us safe. But if the government's job isn't to keep us safe, then why are we spending trillions and trillions of dollars?
Okay, so I think the somebody, not my idea, but I think somebody basically had kind of similar, a closer analog, which is, drunk driving is a choice,
right?
But but I think it's okay for the government to insist that you don't drive drunk, because guess what? It's not hurting just you.
I thought I keep seeing this. There's one guy I follow on Twitter, and he's always trying to raise money to put up these billboards, and he always has a great mock-up of these billboards, but I don't think any of them have gone up. So I'm a little hard pressed, but they're great, But one of the billboards he's been trying to raise money to put up is like a picture of Donnie Three Scoops down at Mar-Lago, but a picture of him smiling with his thumbs up. It's like, I got my COVID shot in January. You know what I mean? It's like, that whole crime family got their shots. Everybody on Fox has got their shots, but yet they go out there and they tell you it's your choice. You don't have to be pushed around. And now places like Alabama, where that governor who never put a mask mandate in place, who shut down last, opened up first, is out there yelling at the unvaccinated. It's like, dude, lead by fucking example. You know what I mean? It's like, you can't come in now and say, oh, after a year and a half of telling you it's not bad, it's going to go away, it's fake, masks don't work, don't, cheering, like, lock Fauci up and stuff. Now you want to take it. And I have a theory, because I guess last week the CDC had said 99% of people in ICU with COVID are unvaccinated. So sure, there's going to be one or two, but it's like now they're starting to read, oh fuck, that's our viewers. You know what I mean? It's like, oh fuck, that's our voters.
Yeah, I've had suggestions that there was possibly a briefing that may have gone to certain, to say, to Congress or whomever, right? And based on some studies or analysis from the CDC, that I think that perhaps may have scared the bejesus out of a lot of these people. And then they in turn may have, tipped some of these guys to say, hey, this is what I'm hearing, this is what I'm seeing. And then that might be what's kind of actually changing things. So that's conspiracy theorist stuff, but so that's what I kind of wonder.
But the last guy still, isn't out there saying to do it. But Tucker Carlson and Ingram are the biggest ones on that network right now. So them pushing back is only going to hurt. But
regardless, but just in terms of, I guess my big question is, what happened in that whatever that first day was when the tune changed with Hannity?
Yeah.
What happened? Did he find? What did he find out? What did he hear? What did he see? Is it really that simple as what you just said, that 99% of the people who are hospitalized are unvaccinated? Is it really that simple, or was there something? That's what I'm wondering.
Well, I think the 99% of the 99% are Fox viewers, and they're starting to think it's like that's our people who are now,
maybe,
dying. But you know what? This isn't the only place where things are pretty messed up.
Yeah.
And before we get to the Olympics part of our Olympic talk, what's going on in Japan? Yeah, the crime is still running rampant there.
Absolutely.
You sent me that clip, and I would like you to break it down.
Well, so this gentleman parked his car right outside where he was staying, and literally these thieves are stealing the car in front of his eyes, and he sees it being stolen. He yells out from his window, "Don't steal my car!" And what do these thieves do? They ignore his plea and warning completely and proceed to steal the car. Is that unbelievable?
And forgive me for my ignorance. Forgive me for are steering wheels on the right side of cars in Japan?
That's correct, because they drive on the left-hand side.
They do. They do. Okay. Yeah. I was not sure of that, because I'm like, there's no way somebody can get in on that driver's side the way it was parked against the rock wall there. And I'm like, the brick wall. Yeah. And then they blur it out. So either the car that his buddy was driving, they blurred out the plates, and hopefully that, well, I assume that car was stolen because you could see the plates of the getaway car. But yeah, he's yelling. It's like, I don't know exactly what he was yelling, but I could put the pieces together.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? But the amazing thing about it is they found the car 2 days later.
It was total chopped up.
No, they found the car that was returned to the owner 2 days later. Probably because the thieves freaked out when they saw themselves. Oh, that's us on the news. This is bad.
Yeah, exactly. So now that we're over there talking about the crime-ridden Japan, let's talk about the COVID-ridden Japan and how bad that's going.
Well, it's going, right? And obviously we've had these cases popping up among the athletes and within the athletes' village. We knew it was going to happen. Whatever. Just like with everything else, they're determined to have this Olympics and have it done because, hey, guess what? 2022 is an Olympic year and it's the Winter Olympics. So,
but it's and correct me if I'm wrong, which I probably am. The people in Japan, the people in Tokyo didn't want the Olympics right now. They want, but it was the IOC that said, "Fuck you, we're doing it."
Well, it's not so much the but it's really a combination of the JOC and the government that said, we're not stopping this. This is going to happen. We're going to go through with this, right?
So what happened with the broadcaster who made a Holocaust joke?
Well, that's not. So actually, that was a writer who was in charge of some of the entertainment segments as part of the Olympic production, and he was actually a behind the scenes guy, and I think he was a combination writer and maybe like producer, but stuff surfaced from the 90s where he basically made a Holocaust joke. And I still haven't watched the video. I should, but I just haven't watched the video. And so essentially this was made, essentially this came out, pressure was on, and he resigned. And so, and
you sent us the clip. You're like, he's not yelling, but trust me, the prime minister is not happy.
Well, it's like anything else. The problem is that they, number one, probably did a poor job of screening things in general. That's part one. Part two is that this is the problem with the way maybe the IOC is run, but definitely the way JOC is run, where you have these connected people who have these, basically old school, dudes, right? And they just have this, they feel entitled to getting a lot of these positions. They feel entitled to a lot of these things because of who they are and what their history is, but they're people with horrible attitudes. And so the current JOC director chairperson is a former athlete, and she was replaced because the previous one was some old politician, and he made some heinous comments about there was a IOC kind of a goal to have something like 50% women in various, committees or whatever. And his comment to that was, well, when you have that many women, in a committee like that, nothing gets done because all of them have to talk, because as soon as one says something, the next person has to be heard. And it's like some of the, just like, come on, are you serious? Like, 2021. But and then he's like dumbfounded that he's under pressure to get fired. I mean, that's how detached he is from reality.
So let's talk about the good stuff in the Olympics, and we all become experts on things we didn't know 2 days ago.
Sure.
But I guess Japan and the U.S. women's softball team have the last time there was
kind of been a rivalry. Yeah.
Right. Like and here's the crazy thing. The last time, because softball hasn't been in the Olympics for a little while, the last time they met in the gold medal game was 11 years ago, or it was
2008.
2008.
Yeah.
Same two starting pitchers. Like the rest of the teams are completely different, but it's the same two starting pitchers.
Yeah, Kat Osterman. Yeah, and Kat Osterman, I was kind of surprised that they pulled her, especially because she hadn't given up any runs. But obviously she's 13 years older than she was the last time she played, so maybe that was a factor. But whatever the case may be, and man, and I was somewhat agnostic about who won this game, obviously, because I have allegiance on both sides. But man, I was just so heartbreaking to. I mean, kudos to Kat Osterman for doing that post-game interview, but it's just, she was so heartbroken. It was just, so that part of it was tough. But
yeah, when you come that close, you know what I mean, and you ain't getting another shot. You know what I mean? That was your one shot. Also, I want to talk obviously about the Simone Biles.
Yeah.
She, first of all, in our lifetime, we are so privileged to be seeing somebody this good, like this much heads and shoulders better than the second runner-up.
I think that goes across multiple sports, right? I think that we're probably in like we're watching some of the best of the best. Like, you talk about her, you talk about, people like, maybe even guys like, say, maybe Federer, maybe Djokovic or whatever, or, Serena Williams, definitely. And, Wayne Gretzky and Michael Jordan, all those people. And like, so in that sense, we're just lucky all around. And of course, within that realm of the, the mega superstars, Simone Biles is in, that Mount Rushmore territory, right? So,
and we've talked before that she came up with a move that is so incredible that nobody else can do it, and so they banned her from doing a move that was named after her because nobody could come close. She has won gold medals on a broken foot.
Yep.
She's won medals literally. She's won medals banged up in ways that NHL players would be like, I can't go out there. So this time around, something's not right. She's hurt, and when she pulls herself out of competition, and just the vitriol that she was subjected to, and no one took.
Well, but before we go to the negatives, though, I do want to start with the positives of that, which is number one, right? For somebody that huge to come out to say that, you know what, not only, and I think there's one part that people miss, but the really important part is that, I'm taking ownership over my health, right? And as an athlete, I'm not going, this is going to be dangerous. And we have, obviously there's documentation of gymnasts have explained why this is so dangerous, right? So I'm not going to get into that, but I think that aspect of it is super important, that she's, as one of the greats of the greats of the great, is setting this example to the certainly to the younger gymnasts, but maybe across multiple sports. So that part is great. I think the fact that the way she handled that whole thing within the context of the team, where she stayed on, she cheered on the team.
Yes.
She was vocal.
Yes.
She basically didn't say, you know what, I'm backing out and hiding away. You watch the footage of her, telling her teammates, and it's like, this is the greatest of the great, saying, listen, here's I'm pulling out. And obviously they're gymnasts, so they know what's going on, right? They understand what she's going through. But, for her to go in there to say, look, I know you guys got it. So, and then kudos to two breakout stars, Suni Lee, who won the all-around gold, right? And then Jordan Childs, who had to take Simone's slot in the two events in the team side that Simone pulled out of. And, obviously she wasn't she's prepared, but she certainly wasn't like expecting to do those things.
No, like
and to be thrown in there and then go away with a silver medal. Fantastic.
And the other thing, you're an athlete. I'm an athlete. We know.
No, I'm not.
No,
you're not.
Okay,
we play sports,
but we know athletics. And
yeah,
and for her to say, look, I'm the best in the world, but me at 75% is not good at this as her at 100%.
Yeah.
So when she pulled out, she was doing it just as much for her team. Like if she had, oh, I'm going to gut this one out. Look, you know, if Tom Brady literally pulls,
no, let's do this. Let's not go with a hypothetical.
Yeah, no, just
let's go with the real stuff. Hey, remember that guy that was hurt but was still played first base in 1986?
Right. Yes. Exactly.
How many people said that guy should have pulled himself out of the game? It cost the Red Sox the World Series.
100%. And any athlete to get to that level, you have to be so fucking driven. It's insane. 99% of people will never be able to understand the focus and the work and the dedication. I don't care how fucking gifted you are. To get to that level, it is insane. But for you to be able to put your teammates first and say, oh, I'm not going to gut this one out for me and for my glory, but my team will do better. It's hard. And again, the Buckner thing, yeah, that was a different situation. The owner called and said, keep him on the field. I want him on the field.
Whatever the situation is, though, right? But you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're hurt and you're not.
But for her to do that, for her to put her team above herself, and then, like you said, she sat there and cheered and worked with them and was just not at the hotel and not in the locker room. I mean, she is a fucking hero every way. And like you said, for her to put herself out there and be an example, look, you got one body, don't mess this up. If you're hurt, you're hurt. Say you're hurt. Don't, and again, this is coming from a woman who's won gold medals on one leg,
Listen, the part of it is that, how hard is it for the person who is clearly the greatest, in her sport to say, I got to pull out and not win these medals, right? It's like, this is what she does, right?
She's phenomenal. And she's coming to Boston, and I think the wife and kid, she's going to be at the Garden. I think we're going to go down and definitely see that. So it's a big week for you, Biff, because it was NHL free agency week. So I want you to talk a little bit about some of your favorite things that happened, but then I don't know. It seems like the NHL is trying to compete with the NFL as how many awful people can we,
Well, yeah. So like just starting with the, it's just been a kind of a bad week. So within hockey and even with the Simone Biles thing, there was a lot of, Twitter activity because a couple of the women on the U.S. women's national hockey team came out and did the, Simone Biles is a coward for doing this, so for fellow women Olympians to essentially do that was pretty brutal. And, a lot of comments about, that toxic hockey culture, not just with the men, right? I mean, that was one of the things that, came out. And of course, when we talk about, toxic hockey culture, we've had this Blackhawks sex scandal for a while, where their video coach basically sexually assaulted players, and the handling by the Blackhawks is just so awful based on what's come out. And obviously these are, these are just stories that have come out. But when you hear that these players not only did not get their complaints did not get addressed, but later on their teammates hazed them for being the victims of this. Literally these, so that whole thing, I mean, I don't understand how everybody who was on that team, running the team from that 2010 era is not suspended, on an administrative leave. So there's that. And by the way, Katie Strang of The Athletic, who's done a lot of these kind of really difficult subjects, been doing a great job following this. Rick Westhead and TSN similarly doing great jobs. So, if you're interested in reading more about him, look up Katie Strang, look up Rick Westhead, and you'll find lots of great stuff from them. The Montreal Canadiens drafts a player who was, technically convicted in Sweden for basically he he made unauthorized he got unauthorized photos or videos of somebody that he had sex with and distributed and so on. And so at the prior to the beginning of the draft, the prospect made an announcement that he renounced his eligibility for the draft and basically asked the NHL not to draft him. But of course, the Canadiens draft him in the first round. And then to top it off, they say nothing, right, for a few days, and then they wait until right in the middle of free agent frenzy, where this year a gazillion signings. It was an exciting day in free agency, and right in the middle of that, Jeff Molson, the CEO of the Canadiens, released this press conference. Yeah, right. Remember those things, like when the guys bury stuff? Well, that classic, right?
Yep. Friday afternoon's news dump.
All that stuff. And then on top of it, there's another player, Tony DeAngelo, formerly of the Rangers, with a history of abuse, ref abuse, racial slur against a teammate.
Was it a teammate? Yeah, it was a teammate. Yeah,
Akeem Alou, I think it was. And then there was one. He was a politically charged guy, and he got into it with some troll, and he basically the troll said, well, I would say it to your face. And then the guy say, well, you know what, meet me outside MSG, kind of a thing, right? I mean, that was basically it. So that stopped happening on Twitter because he left Twitter for Parler, but that's another story. But anyway, but the Hurricanes signed him to a free agent contract. So I'm thinking, it's like, yeah, that's real good, so.
No, I mean, it's like, I get that winning is everything, and these great players are good, even decent players at that level are hard to come by. But yeah, there's just, at what point do they have to say it's like, yeah, and you know what, I'm very disappointed I didn't hear about the U.S. women's hockey team weighing in. I mean, that's just horrible.
Yeah, well, so part of it is because I do a lot of the people that I follow in hockey are both women writers. There's a few women writers that I really like a lot because, well, there's one that I like because she's hilarious. And then there's a couple that I like a lot because they do a lot of advanced analytics combined in their, essentially when they talk about things, right? So I like the advanced analytics people, but they obviously are advocates for women's hockey. So when they see crap that happens where it's essentially giving that women's game a bad name, they're certainly unhappy about it. And so that's how I got wind of it. But yeah, it's like Kelly Stack and I can't remember her first name, Skarupa. There's two of the players that basically publicly said on Twitter, this garbage. It's like,
that is disappointing. So, and any other Olympic thoughts? Because by the time we touch base next, the Olympics will be over.
I think I used to be a little bit more of the get off my lawn guy with regards to some of these newer events, and now I'm not. Like the skateboarding, like the skateboarding and the surfing and all that stuff. You know what? Those games are fantastic,
dude.
You know what?
And when management and I were watching the skateboarding, what popped out in your mind first? What surprised you the most?
Aside from the fact that they're like kids
and zero equipment.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, there's no elbow pads, helmet, nothing. Yeah. And I'm like, whoa. But the Olympics, look, they have to survive somehow. Yeah. And it's funny because they just awarded when they awarded the last Olympics, they awarded two at once because there were so few bids, fewer and fewer bids come in.
Right.
And they were like, oh, if we don't give it to France this time, they might not put in a bid next time. So we're going to hand out the 2024, the 2028 at the same time.
Right.
Only one city bid for the 2032 Olympics.
Yeah.
Only one.
But yeah, it really should be something where the Olympics, I mean, obviously we could go into the IOC corruption and everything else, but I think that we're at a point where we have to entice the cities to do these things, that they have to literally get an actual cut of the broadcast, revenue.
Oh, there was in Boston a few years ago, there was a private group that was trying to put in an Olympic bid.
Yeah.
And the governor stepped in and said, just to the IOC, it's like, yeah, this isn't us. So if you're thinking about taking this bid, we're not doing it. And I think it was the governor or one of the senators was like, okay, just so you people know, this is what they're expecting in ways to be considered. And it's like they needed a lane on the highway just for them.
Yeah.
Like all this crazy stuff. And it's like, dude, it's like the Crafts just built Gillette Stadium 45 minutes outside of Boston, but we'd have to build a Gillette Stadium right in Boston proper. It's like, why would we build a billion? We're never going to need it. So no, it's crazy that they do that. But as far as the BMX and stuff like that, the Olympic people are looking at the X game over the last 30 years, which went from a joke, an obscure thing, but then when you see like Red Bull Sports and what the X game is now, it's like, holy shit.
I mean, how many more years do you think before MMA becomes an event, right? Because UFC is exploding out of this, gargantuan rate.
Oh, it's a worldwide sport. Like, seriously. I mean, honestly, jiu-jitsu has been a bigger sport worldwide than boxing for 20 plus years. And I would be really surprised. Maybe not 2024. I'll be surprised if by 28-32, if MMA is not in there. So any video games going on at your house these days you want to chat about?
Did I mention it was free agent frenzy week?
I
was busy.
So
actually, no. But between the last time and this time, though, I actually did watch 2 episodes of Loki.
Oh, good. Well, we'll get to that in TV in just a second. But because what I didn't watch is there is a 4-part animated series of Resident Evil on Netflix, and me and my little guy, my oldest guy, like. Netflix is the one game that we're both into. Like we have like all 9.
Netflix or the Resident Evil?
Well, both. But
Netflix is a game.
But Netflix, no, we love the Resident Evil games, but I'm really looking forward to seeing that. No, as far as TV goes, you've seen the first 2 Lokis?
Yeah.
And
it's a lot of fun. So I am looking forward to seeing and so I think now that the free agent stuff has settled down and hopefully it's been a busy week at work, but I think in the next few weeks, I think I'll have a little bit more bandwidth. So I'm going to try to get to, James is a big fan of Winter Soldier, not Winter Soldier, Captain, whatever the
Falcon
and the Winter. Yeah. So, I do want to get to that. I do want to get to WandaVision, so the whole thing. So there's a few that I'm going to try and catch up between now and October.
So when you watched Endgame and you saw Loki pick up the Tesseract.
Right.
It's like, oh, you knew he was going to pop up somewhere. And I love it takes place right that second. It goes right from there, right into it. No,
so that part, so that part was the kind of the easy read, right? I mean, I anticipated that. Okay, I get it,
okay,
right?
Where's he going? How's he getting into
so no, but because when they announced the Loki, movie, like, I made that was the obvious stuff, right? But I think in general, and I don't know that Marvel was going out of their way to hide it or anything, but I think they've been really, really good about essentially, despite a lot of hate towards a lot of this, the Marvel stuff, I actually think that they're pretty well thought out, and I think that there is, even though I'm unlike you, I'm not a hardcore in any of this, but I think that there is a certain level of care that is being given by the people creating these, right? And I felt the same way about, like, say, the Star Trek, reboots, right? It's like people who made these really cared about the original, like they felt like they were custodians of these things that they love. So, they're not going to necessarily get it right, but it wasn't out of, what, we just need this to make, $8 gazillion. No, it wasn't that.
I defer to the opinions of much smarter people when it comes to this, like Kevin Smith, who he talks about that every time he gets a chance. It's like the people making these movies now are living their dream. These were always in their thing. It wasn't like, a big director, here's a big chance to make a big movie. It was like these guys grew up reading these and worshiping these, and we truly are in a golden age. And
and he's the right guy, right? Because I think he directed a couple episodes of Supergirl, was it?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I heard other people talking about it. He was just a big fan of the Flash and Arrow and Supergirl, and he called them. I mean,
Right.
this guy who's made big, huge Hollywood movies, been around for a while, but he started off writing comics and all this stuff. But he called them and said, "Hey, I'd like to direct an episode if I ever get a chance." And they're like, "Who is this? Is this an intern? Are we being punked?" Wait, Karen Smith is calling us to direct episodic television.
But have you watched any of his like stage shows? Like they're on Netflix or whatever.
Yeah.
Have you watched it? Any of it?
No.
Okay. I'll have to find which one had it, but there's a great sequence about him and his directing chops where he has a conversation between him and Bruce Willis. Was it Cop Out? Was that the movie? I want to say. That was a movie with Bruce Willis and Tracy Morgan, right?
Yes.
So there is this portion of the movie where they have this conversation, and it's a hilarious look into how much he's not your traditional director, let's just say. So I'll try to find it, and I'll see if you have a chance to watch it.
I definitely will. No, I love that guy. By the time we chat next, I will have seen Suicide Squad that comes out this weekend, and Snake Eyes. I'm excited about that.
I gotta say, you know what? I love this. It seems like I got the impression that the first Suicide Squad got kind of crapped on, but I actually really enjoyed it.
I loved it, and I don't know why Will Smith isn't back.
Yeah, he was so good.
He was so good.
That was a great movie though.
And like, the you can't really call it a cameo, but like, Ben Affleck's Batman was was only in a couple shots, but they were very Batman shots. It was great.
And I love that the I don't know what the character's name is. I'm sure you'll tell me, but the fire guy I thought he was fantastic. The guy that's kind of
Diego. I'm trying to think.
Okay, something like that. Yeah, that character I thought was incredible. But yeah, I actually liked
it very much. A lot. Yeah. I very much liked it. You got before we sign off, you got a parenting tip?
No, I have nothing this week. How about you?
So I told you a couple weeks ago, my little guy has gotten into the Karate Kid.
Right.
And Cobra Kai. Yep. And his mom and I are at odds that while, yes, I very much love Mr. Miyagi and his style of teaching karate, but the Cobra Kai way also comes in handy. And so my little guy decided he wanted to get back into hockey. And we went out. It was his first time on ice in 4 years. He killed it. Like, he shouldn't be this okay. I mean, he's not good. He's not great. But it's like, dude, he was...
There's a little bit of that kind of the riding the bike kind of thing. He just
stunned. And he only played like 4 months, once a week, 4 months when we first moved here. 4 years later, he says, "Oh, I want to play." And so I take him. And what was really great is now that he's seen Cobra Kai and seeing why I like that style, he was tired. He negotiated himself out. The stick time was 1 hour and 20 minutes. And I said, "Okay, we just have to stay 50. But you have to keep moving the entire time." And every time he stopped or slowed down, I got behind him. And I was like, the teacher from Cobra Kai, yelling at, it's like, "Come on, Mr. Lawrence, this dojo knows no pain." And he was laughing, but he kept going. I'm like, dude, if you want to do this sport, and, I'm going to sidebar for a second. What's really tough, Biff, back here is, as you know, hockey is religion. So if you're 11 and you want to play hockey, Biff, you can't.
Yeah,
because there's no in-house.
You're dealing with all the travel teams just taking up all the ice slots, right? Yeah.
Right. There's no in-house. There's no learn to skate. There's no beginner programs. It's if you're 11, you've been playing since you're 4 or 5 years old, and you're obligated to honestly play a 60-game schedule, 30 of which is at least an hour away, if not out of the state. Like, my brother.
You guys have not that he's going to go there, but like, does your school systems have intermediate school and high school hockey though?
They don't. Okay. It's JV and varsity, and every high school around here the hockey teams play in front of packed houses.
Right.
And, the high school state championship play, they do it at the Garden,
Right. Yep.
And the place is packed. It is just a religion here. And here's the thing. He can do it. Like if he went out twice a week and, and I just mean, because as it's like, I'm a better coach than a player I'll ever be. And I've worked with so many people, and I'm pretty good at this. And I've told him, and his mom told him, if you really want to do this and you're willing to do the dryland training twice a week, and you're willing to go to public skating once and just work on skating and get to a stick time once a week, if we can find it. Like once hockey starts back up, like right now, I got him doing a stick time last week and the next 3 Sundays. I don't know where there's going to be after that. I'm like, dude, in 6 months, you're not going to be the best player on any travel team, but you can make a travel team.
Yeah.
Because he's a naturally, and I really believe this, when we had the boys, I'm like, I don't want to put him in any sport and push him. I want to expose him. I signed him up for everything. I mean, every fucking sport you can imagine, they played once, from all the traditional ones to things like water polo, archery, all this stuff. And if you stick with it, we'll work with it. But with jiu-jitsu, it's all about understanding leverage and your body and movement and it's strength on strength. So he can transition to this if he really wants to. But my parenting tip is like, when they get into something and they're willing to put in the work, make them watch a little Cobra Kai and understand, what, this is what it takes. Like literally, this is what it takes. Yeah. So that's my parenting tip. Biff, I wish you the best. I'm really looking forward to the Roenick sideshow next week. But I'm going to leave the rest up to you, my friend.
Well, we had a lot of just horrible things in sport this week, but at the same time, this what we led with was that whole Cleveland Guardians thing. So that makes me think that it's important that you don't forget.
Oh wait, that was a quick 5 minutes.
Off the air, there's no one left to keep her hospital set now. Crying child.